Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that this week has been bitten by the thing we love. Once again, cinemas are back. Yes, they are, and we rejoice, and we wouldn't have it any other way, but we have been bitten by that old chestnut, film timings. Which means that we might not have as many films for you as we usually do. My name is Tosin, and I am based in the United Kingdom, somewhere in the middle of the country, in an area called the Midlands, in a town called Bromsgrove. And joining me, as always, on the Isle of Wight are Sharon.
Hello.
And I would usually say Shaun. However, Shaun has decided to roll the clock back a couple of years. Roll the clock back to when we used to run. I think the first ever thing that we did is that we did a radio show. We did a radio show, hospital radio on the Isle of Wight, called They Don't Make Them Like They Used To. And we then moved to another radio show at Vectis Radio, which is a community radio station, which is just a movie review show, straight up movie review show of what was in the cinemas that week. And every now and then, Shaun would have a day where Shaun was a teacher, then he would go back and work for the school, and he would do a lot of driving minibuses to cricket tournaments, and we would have days where we would just get messages from Shaun going, I'm on my way, just start without me. And then we would start the show, and we would be vamping, and then at some point, Shaun will burst into the room, sit down, and would have to signal to him, okay, Shaun, just keep quiet. And so At some point during this podcast, we will have the third member of a cohort, which is Shaun, who will burst in and cause chaos, because that's just Shaun is one to do. But with me is Sharon, and Sharon, we were talking about cinema timings and how you got bitten. You're the one who got bitten by them.
I got bitten. Yes, it's my turn. Well, I got bitten figuratively by the cinema times and literally by some bugs. So I have got loads of itchy, scratchy bites all over me, and a legacy of my gardening days is that my body just basically overreacts to every bite now. It goes into hyper, okay, we've got to fight this. And I get a fever, the burning, the scratchy horribleness and swelling lumps and bites. So I have been bitten literally and figuratively by the cinema. The figurative bit biting was I sat down ready to go, had looked up the cinema times earlier in the week, thinking, I'll watch that film, and it's on at 10 to 8. I thought, well, that's a good time. I can get home from work, sort myself out, and have a sit down, go to the cinema. So come 7:30, I thought, I'll just I might go book my ticket ready. And I looked and I thought, it's not 10:02. It's 7:10. So it's not 10 to 8, it was 7:10. So it was 19:10 instead of 19:50. And I just went, oh no. And because I had left it till 7:30 to look, it was too late to get there in time to catch the beginning. I would have missed.
So what film would you have seen?
That, I think it was called Monster Hunter.
Oh, Monster Hunter, yeah.
I know Shaun has seen it, so at least it's. And here he is now.
Oh, and there he is. Shaun bursting through the gates.
Hello.
As we spoke about it, we were just talking about this. We're talking about a throwback to our days on radio, on hospital radio, community radio, and how there were days where you'd be late, and then all of a sudden you just sort of burst in halfway through the show and cause chaos.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I've been. It was really nice. Been up New Close because there was the schools got together for year 8, 9s. All the schools were there for a little cricket tournament at New Close, which is the cricket ground, and it's really nice.
You said it was a cricket festival.
Yeah. So, and that was the boys. So it might be the same next week because they're doing the girls next Thursday. So,
all right, good for the girls.
It's okay. We'll have you crashing in. We'll have you crashing in all the time. So we were talking about the films that we've seen this week, and we're talking about the fact that Sharon has gotten bitten by the cinema timing bug. And the film, I think the films that I see increasingly are actually determined by the cinema timing bug, because because I have one day a week to see films. Tuesday nights are my film, so I go play tennis, and I'm allowed to go play tennis, go to the cinema, then come back. So tennis finishes around about 8:30. So I have to see whatever film starts around about 8:30. I really wanted to see In the Heights this week, the Lin-Manuel Miranda adaptation of the Lin-Manuel Miranda musical. I really wanted to see that, but none of the what?
I've seen the trailer for that, and I mean, I normally like musicals, but honestly, Toes, I thought the trailer was I don't know. I was like, oh, looks absolutely awful. But it might be worth seeing just to see how awful it is.
Okay, what did you think when you saw the trailer for La La Land?
I can't really remember. What did I think? I just thought, oh, well, that looks all right. But this was just like, I don't know. I think it's aimed at totally young teenagers, I think.
Well, I think it's looking at the people who like Hamilton. I think because it's got that sort of mashup, hasn't it? Between
it's more of a hip hop musical,
right?
It's more it's definitely more of a hip hop musical than your stereotypical musical.
I mean, mine hasn't been the timings. Mine's been the football, really.
Well, but that comes back to timings.
Yes, it does. You're right.
It comes back to timings because you're busy watching Euro 2020, and you have to figure out what films you can start watching and finish watching before the football match starts.
Exactly.
Now, so for me, I haven't been bothering about that whatsoever. So that means that this week the film that I got to see that started because I finished playing tennis at 8:30. This film started at 8:40. And that the advert started at 8:40, so I was like, if I leave the tennis club at 8:40, I can make it to the cinema by around about, maybe 8:55, 9 o'clock, and maybe then the film would have started. And so that's the way I saw it go about it. And the film I saw was Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard.
Okay, I've seen the trailer.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I managed to see in cinemas. And Shaun, you managed to see the film that I think that Shaun was going to see. Which was
Monster Hunter.
Hunter.
I got my timings all muddled up.
Ooh. Shaun, you see, Shaun gave a little bit of an exhale when he said the words Monster Hunter, which makes me think I might know what's coming. But you did a kind of Monster Hunter. but all right, cool. And at home, Sharon, you saw Woman in the Window.
Yes, on Netflix.
Yeah, Woman in the Window. I'm happy to only do 2 because the thing I saw this week, I'm happy to keep it over for next week. And Shaun, you saw
Emperor.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let us kick off with Monster Hunter. Let's kick off in cinema. Let's kick off with Monster Hunter. Shaun, your 5 minutes start now.
Okay, so basically what you've got is it what's is it Mila Djokovic? Is that the one?
Mila Jovovich, I believe it is.
Yeah. Okay, and she's like a red hot ranger that is really good. She's got this team of experts that are going in to rescue someone, and all of a sudden there's like this bit of a storm. Mm-hmm. There's a bit of a storm, and they end up going through like a gate, a loop sort of thing, and they end up in this area where their guns and their weapons are pretty useless against this big creature monster.
Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to do it so the way, unless he's not saying spoilers. Yeah. So anyway, so there's this monster and it's not very good, but there is like a hunter who's been there, obviously knows the ropes and that, and so
who lives in this land that they have been transported to.
Yeah.
For storytelling purposes.
That's right. And also there's like this this bunch of like I don't know if you call them pirates, or because basically on the sand it's like the sand is like the sea in this area, and ships can sail, so they like go through the sand rather than the sea. And so there's this like little group that they're saying, we really need to destroy this gate thing. We really need to destroy it so that you don't come into our world anymore. It's got Ron Perlman in now. Ron Perlman, he's one of my sort of bogeys. Been all right in a couple of things, but most of the things I don't know. I can't. He's not my. Anyway, he's like this, like a lion. He looks like he's got loads of hair. He's not a lion. He's a man, but he's just got like masses and masses.
Beauty and the Beast. He was a lion in Beauty and the Beast, wasn't he?
Was he?
The TV series.
Oh,
the TV series. With Linda Hamilton.
Obviously, so he looks a bit a bit, you know.
Well, the thing about Ron Perlman is that Ron Perlman, obviously, he was Hellboy as well. There is something about Ron Perlman's face that lends itself towards animals.
Yeah. The best role I've seen him in, believe it or not, this is on YouTube, and it's called Dirty Laundry, and it's a 10-minute bootleg universe of The Punisher with Tom Jane.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that. You can actually get it on YouTube if you just put in, and I mean but he's like a wheelchaired bar owner in that thing. Anyway, let's get back.
But just before I go back, I'll just say Ron Perlman. I'll put Ron Perlman and Michael Rooker in the same kind of like thing. They show up in films and they play the same kind of character.
Yeah.
And
So anyway, you've got this, and there's like two types of monster. There's like a big sand monster, wormy thing. Reminds me a bit of Dune, something like that. That's they're pretty nasty. And then you've got like these ants, but they're spiders. They're like spider ants, I suppose, if you can think. So they're like a bit of a cross, and they end up being caught and have to escape. You know, and there's all this smash them, hash them up. But I don't know what to say about this. It wasn't horrifically bad. It wasn't like it
wasn't okay. So this
wasn't my Hufflepuff, should we say? It wasn't my Huffy or Puffy. So.
Yeah, the thing is, like, it stars Mila Jovovich, and is directed by her husband Paul W.S. Anderson, who did all of the Resident Evil movies, and those are terrible.
Yeah, well, it's basically, I guess you could say, it's like Resident Evil, I suppose, with different monsters. Whereas, because I mean, I think in the Resident Evil ones, it always starts off with zombies, and gradually the monsters get harder and harder to defeat, or more and more. Yeah. So it's much along that lines. It's a typical what you love action film, and there's a few.
See, I'm hoping that it's better than Resident Evil, if I may, because I know that with a film called Monster Hunter, it shouldn't be a spoiler to find out that there's monsters in this film and there's a hunter.
Exactly.
And so you were talking about the hunter, and I believe he's played by Tony Jaa.
Tony Jaa,
who came to prominence in a film called Ong Bak.
Yeah.
Now I can't remember, where's Ong Bak from? Is it Thai? Was it
Thailand? Yeah, he's a Thai. He's like a.
Yeah, it was a Thai movie. It was and Ong Bak was one of these films that came on and you're just kind of like, this is madness. The stunts that were coming out, and he became like this sort of action star, but a bit like Iko Uwais in the Raid.
Yeah,
you come out with this breakout. Like Tony Jaa came to, and essentially Hollywood, all they could think of to do with him was, oh, he can fight. Oh, he doesn't speak English that well. Oh, he's not white.
Thailand. Yeah,
we'll make him the bad guy.
I think I read somewhere, or someone might have told me. It might have been someone told me, but that Tony Jaa, because he became quite big at one time, but I think the studios that he was contracted to or something like that, and he lost a lot of money on the contract and stuff.
Yeah.
So but anyway,
I'm happy to see him back in the film, and that's why I'm hopeful that this is better than Resident Evil. The reason I would want to watch the film is Tony Jaa.
Yeah, Tony Jaa. Yeah, Tony Jaa's great. I like Tony Jaa. I think he's class. I would put it on a par. I would put it on a par with the Resident Evil franchise.
That's horrible.
So yeah, I mean it's pretty much Mila Djokovic, showcase really. She's like the one that's all the way through. I think her name's, what is it? It's like, what's her name? Artemis. So and they keep going about that. So it's just like it's a vehicle for her to do her stuff really, and the rest, everything else is sort of in the peripheries, whereas Mila gets practically all the screen time doing her flips and flops and stuff.
Well, what can we say? Her husband loves her.
Yes, he thinks she's a goddess, so give her a goddess name, and
she does. I mean, I suppose for what you say about the films and that, she does look competent at doing the stuff. It doesn't. Do you know what I mean? She does actually look the part.
She can do action in her sleep.
Yeah. She, it's not like it seems forced or anything like that. It just seems perfectly natural to her.
Yeah.
So
how many stars? How many stars?
I was just going to say,
Hunter?
For Monster Hunter, I'd probably say I didn't mind it too huffy puffy. And it kept me reasonably entertained. So I'm going to give this one a 3-star.
All right, cool. Monster Hunter has 3 stars. And now we will go a good start from cinema. Well, an all right start from cinema. I mean, you saying that they're on par with the Resident Evil films really just scared the life out of me. But but now we go over to Netflix, and this is Sharon. You are taking this off with, was it The Woman in the Window?
The Woman in the Window.
All right, cool. So far away.
Yeah, I think this is based on the novel that was very successful. The last I think it was last year. The last 2 years, it was sort of quite a big deal. But basically, it stars Amy Adams, and she is a woman who is agoraphobic. So she spends her life in her house, and it's in New York, and it's one of the old brownstone buildings. So it's a house with a sort of a basement area, and then it's got like a 3-story townhouse. Mm-hmm. And so she spends her days basically looking out the window, and she's sort of basically nothing escapes her notice that goes on in the street. And she's noticed that it starts on a Monday, and it says on that Monday, and she looks at the window, and someone has moved into the house over the street from her, and it's a couple with a teenage son.
Yeah.
And then over the course of that week, she thinks she gets to know all of the people there. They come and visit her to say hello, and then she witnesses something through a window, and she thinks she has witnessed a crime. But one of the reasons she's agoraphobic is because she's suffered a trauma and a tragedy, and so she is, and so something of a breakdown. So she is on medication, and she has previously had issues with alcohol abuse since this tragedy. And so basically she is your classic unreliable witness. And so she has called the police to say, I think I've seen a crime being committed, and then no one believes her. Yeah. And then things start escalating where she sees more things and things happen. And again, she's left in that situation, as we are as the viewer, of not knowing what is real and what is not. If it's a hallucination, a symptom of her trauma and her mental state, or whether something really is going on. So in some ways, it's not a new story.
Yeah, sounds a bit like Rear Window to me.
Rear Window, we've been there before, and the whole paranoid person sees something and no one believes them. I think in that storyline before, but it is engagingly done. There's a lot of quite starry cameos in it. Gary Oldman is one of the people who moves in over the street, and Julianne Moore pops up in it. There's 2 other faces you'll know that pop up in it, even if the names escape me at the moment. And Amy Adams obviously carries the whole thing as the main protagonist. So yeah, it's a thriller, a drama, speculative. So you don't really quite know what is real and what's not.
Okay, now if I may, I'll tell you what. Okay, this is like Tosin's prejudice hour, and I'm going to tell you all the prejudices he has. Like when Shaun tells us all the actors that he hates for some indefinable reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is a film like because there seemed to be a period of time where we had the female in the object. The Girl on the Train became a big book and then became a film. The Woman in the Window. I was like,
Gone Girl.
Yeah. Oh, no, Gone Girl is heads and shoulders above all of those. And I feel like all of them came in the wake of Gone Girl. And they all, a bit like how the Divergent series came in the wake of the Hunger Games. So all my prejudice about this are saying, oh, it is a ripoff of a Rear Window. It is this. And especially when the last woman on or female on object thing, which was Girl on the Train.
It is quite reminiscent of Girl on Train again, because she was like a someone with no issues.
Yes.
And you were left to doubt everything you saw, and whether it was her perception, whether it was your perception, and it was.
And the thing is, with Girl on the Train, I'd never read the book, but watching the film made me wonder what the heck the big deal was with the book, because the film was rubbish.
Yeah, all the 3 things you mentioned, though, Gone Girl, Girl on a Train, The Woman in the Window, are all based on best-selling novels. And I think they it's one of those things where it's quite a short gap between publishing success and then translation to screen. They seem to be trying to grab that success quite quickly, whereas
Yeah.
in years gone by, a book would be quite well established before it was adapted, and now it seems to be, okay, it's got done well as a book, let's make a film of it.
We've adapted everything. There's nothing left to adapt. Quick, quick, get this sketch that this 5-year-old kid made on a napkin. Make it into a film. So he has got quite a good filmography behind him, but sort of to go into like the analysis of it, if it compares to those, it certainly is of a type. And I would probably say, for me, I had some issues with it, again, because it felt slightly derivative. So I thought, I feel like this is a familiar story, and I feel like I know what's going to happen. And in that regard, I probably wasn't disappointed in that it wasn't entirely predictable, but the fact that there was a twist at the end, you knew that there was going to be a twist at the end. Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it was sort of competently done. The only thing I would say is because she's agoraphobic and she's in this tall, narrow house, and at one point they say, it was quite dark in here. And she goes, yes, I like it dim. But it meant that half the time you couldn't see what was going on anyway. So it added to confusion, but it added to my confusion because I was a bit, you know what my lives like, my vision's like anyway. I was a bit like, what's going on? What's that?
It's
and
okay.
It comes on the screen and you're supposed to read it. I was like, what does that say?
All right, and okay. Oh my god! I can feel the spirit of Shaun calling to me. So many tangents we can go down. But, pick one tangent. All right, cool. So with the film, did the film give you any inkling as to why the book was such a big bestseller, and how many stars would you give it?
I would, from the film, I probably wouldn't rush out to read the book.
Yeah,
right.
I would think, there's probably nothing else you can reveal to me that's not been revealed on the screen. Unless you want to sort of delve into an emotional state, that's more interesting on the page than on the screen. But I'll give it a 3. I would say it was competently done, but it is of a type, and there's no real big surprises in it. Everyone sort of turns up, says their lines, does their job. Gary Oldman was a little bit, how sometimes he can verge on the overacting.
Yeah,
he was overacting a little bit in this. I felt that his character wasn't entirely believable. He sort of would go from 0 to 60, and I'm thinking, this doesn't warrant that sort of reaction. So I would give it a 3. I would say it was competent, but sort of wasn't a grabber. It wasn't like a whoa, this is really good. So I would say, a 3.
Yeah. Now more on that. What you said about Gary Oldman. More on that in the film I'm going to talk about. But also the thing you were talking about, it being a dark film, is something I find when you're trying to watch a film that's really, really dark at home. That because you have like reflections coming through the window and everything like that, and it's actually really difficult. And every now and then we get a bit philosophical on this podcast. And if you're listening and wondering what the heck's happening, what we usually do is we go see things in the cinema, rate them out of 5. If you haven't figured that out yet, we see things at home, rate them out of 5. We take an average at the end and we see who won this week. Where was our money better spent? But one of the things that like when I talk about it is when you go see a dark movie in the cinema. You sit down and you sort of like, you watch something in the cinema, and because it's all closed out, it's easier to see stuff. When you now take the same dark movie and you try and watch it at home, especially when you have like a sunny day, like we've been having good weather recently.
The curtains pulled, and you still manage to get reflection of the table.
You get reflection of random things. Yeah, it's like there's you never realize that it just reflects in all these lovely LCD TVs that we have. And makes it really hard to see the picture. So I just thought that's one. I'll go a little bit philosophical and say, take that Netflix. That's what cinema does better. But now we get on to the film that I saw. As I said, Hitman's Wife, Bodyguard. Now this is a sequel to the Hitman's Bodyguard, which was released a couple of years back. This was Ryan Reynolds. It was Samuel L. Jackson. Salma Hayek showed up a little bit in the film, and it was essentially, if you think Lethal Weapon, or you think The Last Boy Scouts, or you think those sort of films that were made usually by Shane Black in the late 80s, early 90s, that way it's like, it's a buddy cop thing, it's an action movie, but it's a comedy, there's banter flying back and forth, and the chemistry between Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds made the first film. It made it so much that and this was, I think the first one was a film that critics, quite frankly, generally speaking, and we're talking like, respected critics, not like us, hated. They hated the first film, but people went to like watch the film were like, "Oh my god, I love it! It was so much fun." They loved the film so much that when I told somebody at a aforementioned tennis club that that I had gone to see the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, he was like, "Oh, they shouldn't have made a sequel to that film. They shouldn't have made a sequel to that film." That's Mark. I was speaking to Mark Hudson. He was like, "Oh, he was like, that first one was brilliant. It was excellent. They should not have made a sequel to that." That was his thing. It's like, no, this was too good a film. They should have left it well alone. And in the second one, it is more of the same. It is more of the same, where this is a film that has been lambasted by critics. People have said, "Oh, it is terrible. The jokes are tired. So many forced things of humor." But I still think it is about the chemistry between the lead characters, because now Salma Hayek, being the hitman's wife in the first film, so. This is the kind of film storyline. Yeah, whatever story. Who cares about storyline? Storyline is an excuse for the action and for the banter that goes on. So this time, Salma Hayek shows up and she's pushed more to the front. There's a thing about Ryan Reynolds' character where he's taken a sabbatical from being a bodyguard, mostly due to the trauma that he's experienced because of Samuel L. Jackson's character. And she shows up while he's in the middle of this Italian resort and just grabs him and goes, "You need to help me get my husband," and all that kind of stuff. And you carry on, action kicks off, there's banter, there's flying, there's insults, there's all that kind of stuff going in. Salma Hayek fits in perfectly, and this is a film that I was watching going, you know what, I'm loving this. I am absolutely loving this.
I enjoyed the first one. I think I seem to remember. I thought much better than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you felt the same, did you, Shaun?
Yes, I did. I didn't expect to like it.
No.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. The first one it's a likable film. It's a likable film. I mean, and obviously it was set mostly in Europe. There was an action scene purportedly set in Coventry, and this one is also set pretty much entirely in Europe. Sharon, I'm going to say a name here, and it might sway you to go watch this film. Frank Grillo.
Oh,
Frank
yes.
Grillo.
Frank Grillo.
Yes, I don't mind watching a bit of Frank Grillo.
Frank Grillo shows up. Frank Grillo shows up doing the sort of typical, 3-letter acronym law enforcement agent shtick.
Yeah.
So this is a film where it doesn't do anything that you haven't seen before, but it's just the fact that they have some good characters together that they put together, and it's almost kind of it's one of these films that it's an action comedy, but it doesn't. And it leans a lot into the comedy. So it has all the beats that you're expecting in an action movie, but it keeps undercutting it because this film knows how stupid it is. This film knows how convenient it is that happens to be the case here, that happens. This film knows that it's a sequel to a silly film, and that you have to come up with some silly excuse for these characters to come together again and to do it all over again. And the first film had Gary Oldman in it as the bad guy, and it's the kind of film where everybody who's in this film is capable of some sort of high art. I think Salma Hayek has been nominated for an Oscar. Samuel L. Jackson has been nominated for an Oscar. Ryan Reynolds is capable of doing, like, he's just a very, very talented person. And you have Antonio Banderas in this film. He's been nominated for an Oscar. Yeah, and so it has a great cast, but you can just see that all of them are kind of like, there's no airs, there's no graces. They do not think they're making art. They know that they're making almost like it's very slightly a satire or piss take on those sort of films, those sort of the action comedy, and I really enjoyed it. There were bits where I actually burst out laughing. There were bits where things happen and just kind of like reactions that people would have. There are some bits where they push it a bit much, and it gets a bit. It's kind of like, when you say a film gets a bit laddie.
Yeah.
And there's bits where it gets a bit laddie, but they sort of, it's kind of like, let me put it this way. If Salma Hayek is making a joke about her own boobs, is it okay? So instead of like, in the past where it could be a male character making a joke about a woman's boobs or something like that, Salma Hayek has played those sort of characters in her past, but now if she's the one making the joke about her own boobs, does it become less laddie? and she gives as good as she gets. There's one character who is actually on the poster. He's on the poster of the film. But the way he's introduced into the film, I totally forgotten he was in the film. And when they brought him in, they have fun with it. They have fun with it. And this is another Oscar winner who just sort of shows up, and you can see this dude is just having fun.
They're just having fun, yeah.
But unlike some films where they're having so much fun, it doesn't translate.
Yeah, you just feel shut out.
You feel shut out. I feel like this actually does translate. I think that I said there's problematic things, like there's the whole laddie thing that I'm like, and the thing that still gets me, and I know as I get older in action films, it worries me, the sort of cavalier attitude to bystanders. Like, there's one particular scene where you're like, whoa, did you just kill those people off for a joke? Like they have all the things that, you know, when the main character always has some trauma that drives them, and they have a scene of the main character having trauma that drives them, but the way they do it in this film, it's very kind of like making fun of the whole trope of the main character having a trauma that drives them, but it's done in a very cruel way, and you're like, what? But all in all, I would give it a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
I think it's.
I mean, I might, if there's not a lot else out, I probably will catch that.
Yeah,
eventually at some point.
I think it's a lot of fun. I feel like fans of the first film will not be disappointed.
Oh, cool.
Fan of the first film. I mean, because to be honest with you, the first one was not going to be something that you're going to drill and say that's my favorite film ever. So I don't really think it's possible to be disappointed when somebody makes a sequel to it. But it's yeah. I would say 3 out of 5 for that. So, and now we go on to Emperor. Oh, and also just one more thing, if I may. The thing I was going to say was, because we mentioned Ron Perlman in Monster Hunter, we mentioned Gary Oldman in Woman in the Window, we mentioned like the cast of this film as well, and I feel like these are people who have gotten to a stage of their career where they have made their art. They have made their art, and they don't have any airs or graces about a legacy. And so Ron Perlman just shows up in the film and just growls, probably chomps a cigar and goes, what's my paycheck? Gary Oldman shows up, swings for the fences, and does whatever weird accents you want him to do. Gary carries his paycheck. He's got his Oscar now. This is the guy. And I feel like they should be allowed. And I think that some people think, Robert De Niro should only ever be in classic stuff. I'm like, no, let him have his fun.
Let him have fun.
So now we go back to Netflix and Friends, and we are talking Emperor. So
Emperor,
Shaun, this is you.
Okay, yeah, I watched this on Sky, and we were saying about films not taking themselves too seriously. Well, this is probably a film that does take itself a bit too seriously. But anyway, it's the story of I think it must have been a book. It's a story of this slave that lives on a plantation. And he's called Shields Green. I think it's based on a true story.
Oh, yeah.
And and basically he's okay. He lives with a nice plantation owner, but the plantation owner loses his cards game, so he loses the plantation and has to leave. And then someone nasty takes over and does some horrible thing. So he sort of and he does something, and he has to go because he's really annoyed because something happens to his family. And then so he kills some of the masters, shall we say, and then and then he legs it. So they hire a bounty hunter to go after him. Anyway, he meets his people along the way, so it's like a bit of a journey. He escapes, and then he's sort of hiding in the town. Then he meets up with a bank robber, and he gets involved with the bank robber, and there's a chase, and he gets shot. Well, he doesn't get shot. Sorry, the bank robber gets shot, and it just goes like all this adventure, and eventually he ends up meeting John Brown and fighting at Harper's Ferry. Harper's Ferry was where John Brown's body lies. So obviously just before the American Civil War. Oh, yeah. And John Brown and some men, they took this, which is a historical thing. They took like the arsenal at Harper's Ferry. They took the federal arsenal. So obviously the federal soldiers turn up, and there's a climatic battle. Now, that's the basic story. So it's like an exhibition from an escaped slave, and he meets people, and he gets chased, and he meets people, and he escapes. The wagon chase I'm talking about with the bank robber reminded me something out of the Keystone Cops. Now I don't know if you know what the Keystone Cops are, but anyway. So yeah.
Okay. Anybody listening to this who doesn't know what the Keystone Cops are, I would Google it.
Google it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's exactly as it's spelt.
Yes.
It's spelt exactly as it sounds. Keystone Cops.
Yeah. So that chase was a little bit and there was I had a few issues with it. I wouldn't say I disliked it, and the climatic battle scene was okay, wasn't too bad. I really enjoyed that. The seemed pretty authentic with the weapons and things. So that the ending was quite a good battle. I don't know how historically accurate it is, and at no way at any time, his name's Shields, how he gets the moniker Emperor, I just don't know. It's not explained, and I haven't actually done any research on that, so maybe I should do that. So, yeah. So basically, all I can say about this film is it's a bit of a journey. There's a few chases in there, a couple which are a little bit. There's a couple of times when it's like, but yeah. Okay, I can let that one go. But as I say, it's really funny that wagon chase was. I just didn't. It was just a strange thing, you know what I mean? With you could pardon? Yeah,
it wasn't supposed to be funny.
Yeah, no, it wasn't supposed. That wasn't supposed to be funny. This is what I say about the film. Take it like you were saying with the Hitman's Bodyguard's wife. You were saying that didn't take themselves too seriously. In this one, they really, really did take themselves too seriously. So yeah, but
yeah, I guess it's one of those things that it's hard to make a film about set during slavery and not take yourself seriously. So apart from the chase thing, as I say, the ultimate battle was pretty good. There's a couple of good moments, and it started off really good. There are a couple of moments all the way through. The end battle was pretty good, but. So I suppose I'm gonna really, to be fair to it, I'm probably gonna have to give this roundabout like a 3-star. I would think I'll give it a 3-star.
Ooh.
So
okay,
if I forgive some stuff. So
I'll give it a 3-star. Apparently, Shields Green was a real person.
Right. Okay. But how did he get the name Emperor? Is anything on? Can you find that out for him?
Wikipedia
I know
hasn't told me yet.
Oh right. Okay. You're the mine of information. Right. Okay.
No.
Because they never explain that.
No, they don't. Although the guy who plays Shields Green, Dio Kenny, Yoruba boy, yeah, like that.
Yeah,
Yoruba boy. That's so 3 stars for that. 3 stars.
Yes.
For that. Okay, so in a shortened film where we're only doing 4 films instead of 6 this week, or for the. Can anybody guess who won this week?
I think.
Oh dear! I think that was
3 and 3 is all across the board.
There's 3s across the board this week.
Yeah, this is a 3 kind of week. It's a 3 out of 5 star kind of week. I think. Although even though this is one of the weird things. Even though they're all 3 stars, it seems like there's varying levels of enjoyment that we all got from our different 3-star things.
It's almost like if we had our scale, it'd be like 1 and 2 are like narrow, 4 and 5 are really narrow.
Yeah, if we did this out, out of 10,
three's like.
There's a lot of stuff in 3.
Scale is like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in the middle with 3. So it's we have a 3-star week. So nothing that we saw that was terrible. Everything that we saw this week, we will probably encourage people to go find. So I do find that. And also, because this week we have had our most enthusiastic listener, Anna Bishop Yara, who's got in touch with us on YouTube as usual, playing the quiz game and asking. She was essentially asking. She was like, "Oh, it'd be good if some more people played." So if you're listening to this, go find us on YouTube. Play along with the quiz game. Find us on Facebook and get in touch. But until next week, when we go see a couple more films, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye for me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for joining us.